I'm the chair of the Story County Democrats, and thanks all for coming to support Beth and the House Democrats. First of all, I want to say thanks to Beth for being available to her constituents, unlike so many of our friends across the aisle who are not. And Representative Ross Wilburn is here as well. Hi, Ross. We have our Story County Auditor, Lucy Martin, over there. Water Commissioner Selma Spencer. So I wanted to make an announcement. We've been doing food drives for many years at all of our events, and there's so much need right now, as you know, but what's going on with the SNAP benefits not being paid. So we've decided to do a community food drive. We're partnering with Indivisible Aims and several of the downtown businesses. Monetary donations are always what is most needed, but we felt that we need there to be a visible way for people to show their support. So we wanted to thank the partners of Dog-Eared Books, Gilbert Design, Cafe DM, Skunk River Bikes, Reagan, and His and Her Salon. And then Prince we wanted to thank because they printed the flyers for us, so that was very nice. And everybody that we asked, the partners said yes, and I'm sure there were many other local businesses that would have, but we kind of needed to keep it with just this handful so that we had enough volunteers to be able to go and pick up. They said we're going to be doing pickups every week, and this will be through December 19th, so stop in and support any of these local businesses if you can. There are a lot of organizations and businesses that are stepping up to help, and we support all of that, and we're promoting theirs as well, and just so that there are as many ways and reminders to give as possible. So we want to thank all of them that are doing that. Also, as you know, probably that Governor Reynolds said that the state of Iowa would do $1 million match, but that is only if you donate to one of the 6 regional food banks, and you can find that information. If you just Google Reynolds Food Bank Match, and you'll find the link to her announcement with those. So yeah, it has to be matched from private donors before the state's going to kick in that money. So I really wanted to thank Liz Dorman from Indivisible Aims, who designed the flyer for us. It was so nice. And Barb Wheelock did a lot of the legwork here, contacting these local businesses and getting this moving. And on that note, I wanted to announce that the Iowa Democratic Party every year has a Hall of Fame, and they give an award to Outstanding Volunteer, and Barb Wheelock received that award. And I have that other folder. That's what that folder is that you asked me about. That's your award over there. So thank you so much to Barb. I think that's all. So thank you, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We have, I know, a lot of competition. People say, wow, Actors First are opening tonight. There's a big Gilbert game going on. There's so many things going on, and it took us a long time to find a date. So I am happy. I've been looking since March, so I'm happy to have November 7th, and I thank all of you for taking the time to come out and enjoy the evening. I have a lot of thank yous. I want to thank the event committee first, and you'll be surprised to hear that Barb Wheelock's name is on there. So thank you, Barb. Betty Baird, Jody O'Donnell, and Mary Sue Hartung have all helped a lot in planning the committee, so thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much, Sarah and Jen Lesser-Webb, for donating this spot. What an incredible venue. Truly, truly appreciate it. It is harder and harder to find venues to have events, so this is really a nice find for us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you to Denny, who is faithfully doing our sound system again and videotaping the event, so we appreciate that. And thank you to everybody who donated food and drink. They are all listed in the program that's on your table, so feel free to look at that. Also, the sponsors for the event, people who sent in checks ahead of time to help with campaign contributions, that's terrific, and thank you to all of those people. And Maddie introduced all the office holders, so thank you very much. That's on my list of things to do. I think, are there any office holders that have not been introduced? So I didn't see any. So my theme for this event is that the wind is at our backs. When I asked my friend Josh Turek why he decided to run for the U.S. Senate this year, he said, Beth, the wind is at our backs, and we have some great opportunities. I have to tell you that sometimes when you look at where we've been and what we've been doing, it is really, really hard to see it. So it's really nice to hear somebody who's traveling the state and going to Washington and coming back and telling us that the wind is at our backs. The signs are showing up kind of slowly, but pardon me, you're going to have to let me change my papers. For me, one of the things that I'm seeing, and you're seeing it here tonight, is that we have so many candidates who have stepped up to the plate to run for office. I'm going to tell you, each congressional district in Iowa, including the 4th, has a primary. A Democratic primary, not a Republican primary, a Democratic primary, and we have incredible candidates running in each of those districts. Sometimes I think it would be hard to choose. I did endorse the one that's here today. We also have Rob Sands, who just finished his 100 town halls across Iowa. And, you know, when you can compare that to Republican Representative Marianne Miller Meeks, who said it would be a cold day in hell before she would hold a town meeting. I am proud to be a Democrat. I am proud that we are here, that you are here, that we want to hear from you. I am proud that Rob Sands has gone to 100 different town halls. They were publicly promoted. There's been a list on his website. They've been out there. That's impressive. That's impressive anyway. But the fact that we have Republicans who aren't showing up at all. They're not scheduling any town halls. I think she did have a phone town hall, but that's easy to control. You can just say, I'm taking my question from that person I told to get on the phone call with me. This year, we have had a number of special elections. I think it's got to be a record-setting year but I haven't really done my research. Democrats have won some of those really hard-fought battles, and even the ones we've lost, we have put the work in, we've listened to voters, and we overperformed in those districts. Overperformed how they have performed at national elections. So that's not only going to help with us going forward, but it's going to help those statewide candidates because there's been organizing in those districts. And that's really important because if we just ignore districts, if we just ignore counties, it doesn't help us out at all. Any statewide race needs voters from up in Northwest Iowa. So organizing everywhere is important. We do have 2 special campaigns that are going on right now. One is Iowa Senate District 16, which is in the West Des Moines, I think Windsor Heights area. And that's to replace our beloved Claire Celsi. And then we also have Iowa House District 7. If you have any desire, want to go volunteer for either of those races, please let me know. I'd be happy to connect you to the people running them. So, suddenly the sun is shining a little brighter, right? We all seem to have a little bit more bounce in our step this week. Last Tuesday's election gave us hope that we can do better in this country. We all heard about the wins in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, California. However, did you know that the Nevada City Council turned blue? That our friend Ryan Condon was reelected as mayor, and the other successful candidates were the more progressive candidates. So yes, it's local. So also in Johnston, this Johnston school district defeated Moms for Liberty candidates. There were 32 Moms for Liberty candidates. All 32 lost. So let's turn to the Iowa House. There are already, so this is November of 2025, the election is a year away, and usually I am joining my colleagues at Iowa Democratic headquarters, making phone calls on March 1st, trying to get more candidates to run. We already have 68 Democrats who are confirmed that they are running for the Iowa House. Some of them even have primaries. This is amazing. I know sometimes it's really frustrating to hear about a primary, but it's also a way to build your party, to get the best candidate. And so I'm really impressed. Each of these candidates has been given a training manual, and they are being encouraged to knock on 10,000 doors themselves in this election cycle. That's a big ask. That doesn't include their volunteers knocking on doors, but this is the formula that we are using to win in Iowa this year. Iowans are just sick and tired about hearing about our cancer rates going up. We're tired of the dirty water that we continuously have to clean up and wonder what's in it. Iowans want something done. We've had some bleak moments in the legislature, but I think we hit rock bottom when we took away the rights of some of our most vulnerable citizens in the Civil Rights Bill. And Iowans want public dollars to go to public schools. And this might be just too low of a bar to set, but don't you think we should feed our children? What's happening today that we're bringing in our cans and food and we're making our donations, and some restaurants are offering food to children, that's great, and I love when communities come together, but if a mom or a dad can take a card and buy the groceries they need for their family, and I have to go, oh, we don't really eat this, or we really need this. We need SNAP, and we need SNAP benefits back. So we have a lot to reclaim in our state. The wind is at our backs, and we can do better, and we will do better. I have two really incredible guests. Both of them I got to serve with in the legislature. And the first one is Nate Willems. Nate is a labor lawyer, a working person's lawyer. And I would say he was one of my first indications that the wind is at our backs. Because I think it was close to 18 months ago he called and he said, I'm thinking about running for Attorney General. Would you introduce me to some people in Ames at an event that Story County Dems had? It was really exciting because, I've been in meetings where Brenna Bird has given us some presentations, and I gotta tell you, they have been disappointing. They have been very disappointing. So, Nate's a knowledgeable legislator. He's hardworking. I miss his expertise on labor issues. So come help me in welcoming Nate Willems.
Thank you so much, Beth. My name is Nate Willems. I'm born and raised in Anamosa. I live in Mount Vernon with my wife, Maggie. We have 3 daughters. Maggie is a high school social studies teacher and a volleyball coach. I am a labor lawyer in Cedar Rapids, and I'm running for Attorney General to defeat Brenna Bird. Like Beth said, I served a couple of terms with her in the Iowa House, and I worked a lot on labor issues. I passed into law legislation which penalizes insurance companies who deny workers' compensation claims without a good reason. I worked a lot on education issues. I worked on the issues, the efforts, Republican efforts back then to blame and shame our public school teachers, or to get rid of 4-year-old preschool, or those early efforts to divert money, public money, into voucher programs. Every day that I had the opportunity to serve in the Iowa House, I went to work for good paying jobs with dignity, a good education, and health care for all Iowans. As a lawyer in private practice in Cedar Rapids, I go to work every day for good paying jobs with dignity and health care for all Iowans. I represent Iowa unions from the Missouri River to the Mississippi River. I represent workers who've been hurt on the job in workers' compensation cases. I represent workers who've had their paychecks shorted, wages stolen out of their paychecks. I represent workers who've been nickeled and dimed 100 different ways. In particular, I spent a lot of time representing nurses and other staff at university hospitals in Iowa City. UIHC used to have a policy for decades which amounted to taking an involuntary zero-interest loan out of workers' paychecks. So they would put on their website, yes, we pay overtime. Our policy is to pay overtime 1 month in arrears. So overtime worked in September will not be paid in October, but will eventually show up in your November paycheck. So that violates Iowa law. We dug in, put 4 years of work into this project, put together a class action of 11,000 workers, recovered $15 million for them, and now UIHC follows the law. So that's the type of work I'm very proud of, I'm very happy to do. But what I do is just a drop in the bucket. Because there's $900 million a year stolen out of Iowa workers' paychecks. What does that mean? That means things like people working off the clock, people not being paid overtime, illegal deductions in the pay stub that nobody understands, tips being stolen, or workers being misclassified as independent contractors. We've had laws in the state of Iowa for a very long time that say stealing is illegal. We've had laws that go back even further that say, thou shalt not steal. I'm running for Attorney General because I want to investigate and prosecute corporations that steal from their workers' paychecks. You might not know, but it's actually a felony in the state of Iowa for an employer to not carry workers' compensation insurance. Forgery is a felony in Iowa as well. But too many times where we get calls or a client comes into our office who's been hurt on the job, and there's no work comp insurance coverage in place to pay their medical bills. So we all pay their medical bills. Or I've had people been on the phone with workers who go, yeah, I've seen my supervisor doctor my time card so that I don't get paid overtime. These are actual crimes which ought to be prosecuted. Yeah. The way I look at it is that the Attorney General's office is the largest law firm in the state of Iowa, and it's the only one that's supposed to represent regular Iowans. And it does so many critical things, from prosecuting the most violent felonies to representing the state when the state is sued, or providing support and guidance to every aspect of state government you could possibly imagine. But what could we do? What could we accomplish if the Attorney General's office was also going to work for regular Iowans, for working Iowans every day? Laws do not enforce themselves, but with a team of prosecutors taking on these types of workplace crimes, we can put more money in people's pockets, and I think bring a little bit more dignity to the workplace as well. So, I was not successful on every issue I took on in the legislature. I have not won every case as a lawyer, and I know that when I'm elected Attorney General, we'll have bumps along the way. But one of the teachings of my church, which is First Presbyterian in Mount Vernon, Iowa, is that it is our duty not only to comfort the afflicted, but also to afflict the comfortable. And when that is your mission statement, you're not going to win every battle. But why not suit up and take on some of those battles? We have laws on the books that can be utilized to rein in corporations when they try to roll over regular Iowa workers and seniors and consumers. Let's dust them off, repurpose them, put them to work. I know who I am. I'm somebody who gets excited to go to work for regular working Iowans every day. I want an Attorney General's office that adopts the mindset and the mentality that every single day is an opportunity to work for Iowa workers, consumers, and senior citizens. And that's what we're going to do. So I did want to give you a little update, just in case you were wanting to go down to Florida next week. So let's see, Wednesday, here we go. Wednesday, November 12th, there's a reception for Attorney General Brenna Bird at the Mar-a-Lago Club. The reception is $5,000 per couple, but per couple, you can, just not, $10,000 if you want to do the reception and the dinner, or $25,000 to be an event host for Brenna Bird's event at Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'm not going to ask you for $5,000, but grab a piece of literature. There's about 6 different ways to contact our campaign on this. I know how to use about 3 or 4 of them. We'd love to be in contact with you. If you ever want to go to the website and give us less than $5,000, we'd be very appreciative of that too. But thank you very much for having the opportunity to come here tonight. I really enjoyed it, and we'll be back to Story County again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate, and thank you so much for being here. I'm glad he ended with talking about money, because it's never the fun thing to talk about in politics. I'd much rather talk about public policy. But the average competitive legislative race in the last legislative session was about $500,000. So money is a really important thing. Okay, my next guest, Dave Dawson. Another sign that the wind is at our backs was when Dave called just a few months ago and he said, Beth, I'm thinking about running for the 4th congressional district. I'm like, whoa. It was really very exciting, and I gave him as much push as I possibly could. I worked a lot with Dave, particularly on child welfare issues. I will say that he's probably the child welfare expert. He's worked on both sides of the issues, on all sides of the issues, I should probably say. And it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. So, great working with Dave. Dave, come on up. Help me welcome him.
Thank you, Beth, for inviting me here tonight, and thank you for an opportunity to speak in front of so many people. It's a great turnout tonight, and I had never been in Gilbert until tonight, so it's a new town for me to join on my trek across Iowa's 4th District. And as Beth said, my name is Dave Dawson, and I am running for Iowa's 4th Congressional District to replace Randy Feenstra. And most of you have not met me before tonight, so I want to make sure I told you a little bit about who I am and why I'm running for Iowa's 4th Congressional District. I was born in Northwest Iowa up in Cherokee, and I grew up in a small town of about 300 people in Cherokee County. It's a small town called Washta. If you've ever driven through Washta, it's the coldest spot in Iowa. It holds the record for the coldest temperature. That's all Washta is known for, but it was a great place to grow up in a small town in Northwest Iowa. And I now live in Lawton, which is a town of about 1,000 people just outside of Sioux City in Woodbury County. So I've moved a total of 30 miles from Washta to Lawton. I haven't gone too far as geographically. And I live in Lawton with my wife, Liza. Like your daughter's name is Liza. And we have 3 children. Her son is a senior. Her daughter is a junior. And our daughter together is in 6th grade already. She should be 12. I had the opportunity to grow up in a small town and live in a small town, so I think those things connect me to the 4th District in ways that past candidates have not had running for the 4th District. A lot of our candidates have been from bigger towns or moved into the district and didn't live in the district before, so I'm a 4th District native, and the 4th District means a lot to me. My parents, when I was growing up, had a small agricultural business in Washita. And so after I graduated high school for several summers, I worked at my dad's fertilizer and crop mates business in Washita. So all of our customers were farmers back then. I then went on, I graduated from Iowa State University in Ames. And I think you're one of my former professors, because I know I took genetics when I went to Iowa State, and you looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't remember your name. So I know that I've had some connections from Iowa State over the years, but I graduated in '96, so it's almost 30 years ago since I went to Iowa State. I then went on to law school, and I attended law school at a top 20 law school at UCLA. And I was there for 3 years. I loved the weather, but I hated the traffic and knew I wanted to get back to the Midwest where all my family was. So I graduated law school in '99, and now for the last 26 years I've been an attorney. My first 3 years I worked at a large corporate law firm in Chicago. And it was great making big money in the big city, but I also decided that corporate law was not my passion. It was not what I wanted to do for my entire career. So in 2002, I moved back to Iowa and settled in Woodbury County, and I started my career in public service, and I became a prosecutor in the Woodbury County Attorney's Office. And I've now worked in that job now for almost 20 years. And while I was in the prosecutor's office, I joined AFSCME, and I'm a proud union member for over 20 years. And we need to make sure we're doing better for all of our workers and making sure it's easier to join unions and restoring collective bargaining rights that have been taken away from state employees and county employees and local employees. While I was in Woodbury County, I also became active in my community, became involved in serving on a board that serves individuals with intellectual disabilities. And I also was legal counsel and board member for the Community Action Agency of Siouxland for 14 years that helped oversee the early Head Start and Head Start programs for Woodbury County. In 2012, I ran and was elected to the Iowa House, and I served 2 terms from Woodbury County in the Iowa House, and that's when I got to meet Beth Wessel-Kroeschell. And it was an honor to serve with her. She knew so much about policy in the Health and Human Services field, and she was our chair, our ranking member at the time. And I always just appreciated she would let people who knew more about her on a topic lead on that topic. But she was also one to keep our caucus together on health and human services issues when it came to fighting for reproductive health care rights for women in our state, that they continue to chip away. Every year there was a bill in the House, and it's gotten worse since I left. While I was in the Iowa legislature for 4 years, I stepped away from the county attorney's office and I ran my own law firm for 5 years, and I was primarily a court-appointed attorney, defense attorney, and family law attorney. So I've worked on cases in both sides. But primarily what I've done for the last 23 years is worked in the field of child welfare, advocating on behalf of abused and neglected kids to make sure that they have better lives and that their parents get the opportunity to succeed in life. When they passed the bill this summer, stripping almost $1 trillion away from healthcare, from the Medicaid system, I knew exactly who that was going to impact the most. It's not just seniors, it's not just disabled people, it's not just pregnant women, but it's children. Children in our state. Nearly a third, I think, of the state's children are on Medicaid. And almost all the kids on the caseloads that I've had over the last 23 years access services, because abused children have suffered traumatic experiences and they have substance abuse issues or mental health issues. So it's important to me that we are able, especially in the largest rural district in Iowa, to provide services in our communities. Because if we don't have healthcare funding for Medicaid, how are we going to keep our hospitals open in rural communities? How are we going to keep nursing homes open in rural communities? How are we going to keep health clinics and mental health facilities open in rural communities? We need to be doing better for the people who are most vulnerable among us. Another thing that was important to me when I was in the Iowa legislature, we did actually expand healthcare. It was in 2013 we did the Medicaid expansion, and 150,000 Iowans were given coverage that didn't have coverage before. So we know how to get things done in Iowa. Another bill that was important to me that I worked on, a constituent of mine came forward, was authorizing mental health crisis stabilization units in the state of Iowa at psychiatric medical institutes for children at PMIC facilities. And if my constituent hadn't come to me and I hadn't worked across the aisle to get that bill passed, Dave Heaton passed it as the ranking member of Health and Human Services and got on board because he was somebody that could work across the aisle and be reasonable and actually want to try and help people. We need more people to do that. And another bill that I worked on when I was in the Iowa legislature was important to me. A constituent of mine from Sioux City who had a child in her family who had tragically died as a result of an actions of a caretaker. So the crime of child endangerment resulting in the death of a child at that time did not have a mandatory minimum, but other crimes like attempted murder and murder did. So I worked with a Republican colleague to get the bill passed. And that bill kept my name on the bill the entire way through. It passed through the House unanimously, passed through the Senate. But while we were working on the bill, other people who thought there should be changes to mandatory minimum laws came forward. So we worked with Representative Mary Wolf, who was from Clinton County, Representative Rick Olson, who's now retiring from Polk County. We worked with the Attorney General's office, Tom Miller, and we worked with the Public Safety Advisory Board. And we made changes to eliminate reduce mandatory minimums for robberies that didn't involve a dangerous weapon. And we also reduced mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug felonies, because those two crimes had a disproportionate minority impact in the state of Iowa, and it was not fair that we were over-incarcerating people for nonviolent offenses. And as a result of working together, you can get things done if you're working on behalf of your constituents who come forward with ideas, regardless of whether Democrat, Republican, or an independent. So we need more people who are willing to step forward. So when I heard this summer that Ryan Melton wasn't going to run again, Randy Feenstra was probably running for governor, and nobody else who's a current elected official in this district had decided they wanted to step up and run, I go, we need to find somebody who has some experience to run for this seat. Because in 2018, when J.D. Scholten ran, he almost won as a first-time candidate who had just moved back to Iowa, had never run for office before. And Steve King was a 16-year incumbent, and he came within 3 percentage points of winning. In 2026, people are even more upset with the Trump administration than they were in 2018. So we now have an open seat without an incumbent. We can get that last 3 percentage points and actually win the 4th congressional district. But I can't win this race without your help. As everybody has said, money is part of the politics game. I hate it. It's my least favorite part of the job. But until we get real finance, campaign finance laws and change those, until we get term limits on congressmen, because who wants Chuck Grassley for another 6 years? We have to make some changes, but we have to get people elected who support our values. So what I've been asking is you can contribute $26 to my 26 campaign. That will help me move forward in this campaign to reach out to all 36 counties in Northwest Iowa. I've been to 26 counties now out of 36 since I launched my campaign on August 27th. My plan is to get to the last 10 before Christmas, and then I'll be launching public town halls in all 36 counties in 2026 before the primary, because it's important that you hear from people and talk to people face to face. So if you want to, grab one of my green cards over on the table over there. You can go to my website and learn more about my campaign, how you can sign up to get involved, but donate it. Because if all 90,000 Democrats, registered Democrats in the 4th Congressional District gave $26, that's $2.3 million, and we can run a successful campaign. J.D. Scholten raised $2.9 million in 2018. That's a lot of money. I don't know any millionaire donors. I'm not going to Mar-a-Lago next week. So any small amount can show that we have a people-powered campaign that can actually win. So please consider supporting me and vote for me on June 2nd in the primary. I do have primary opponents, but I hope you'll consider voting for me, and thank you for your time. Maddie makes a good point to remind me that there is a forum for the 4th District Democratic candidates. It will be on December 1st, 6 p.m. at the Ames Public Library. You'll have a chance to hear me as well as the 2 women that are also running in the 4th District. Thanks.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dave. And I just got to say, I've had the opportunity to work with some really incredible legislators, and this is just an example. I just want to say, though, we really miss both of them because it has. We have. I don't know. You're not J.D. Scholten. You're.
Due to redistricting, my new state senator is Caitlin Drake, and J.D. Scholten has part of that district.
Okay, so I guess we still have your district, kind of, but we don't have Nate's. And I should also recommend, I'm so sorry, Guy Morgan. He is running in Iowa Congressional District 2, and he's from Boone. So you might want to, my error for not getting you introduced earlier, so please feel free to hang around and get to meeting these people, so thank you.
We missed another public official over there, Mary Sue Hartung.
Oh, you were on the ballot. Well, Mary Sue. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions? All right. Find some food. There's more food.